Hey everybody, Pastor Todd here coming from the sanctuary. And I know you've noticed that we have a floating cross. It's one of the most remarkable things about our sanctuary. I love it. I love worshiping with all of you, but it is something very special when you're here alone with the stained glass windows and the floating cross. You can really feel God's presence. So I know you've noticed the cross, obviously, and you may have noticed when you were in here that there's a singular cross shadow. It can be very beautiful. You can see that here. And I hope you've noticed what happens when you turn both lights on. You get something very special. And it's not just that they become shadows. It's that they become two shadows making three crosses. And this is really what the disciples, those gathered around the foot of the cross, that's what they experienced. There was three crosses. There were two people being crucified alongside Jesus. And me and our wonderful chair of deacons, Patty Bowman, were talking about that we don't always get to experience that with our new screen back there. We can do some wonderful things during worship with that screen back there. I'm glad we got it. But occasionally I want to have some moments where we can appreciate this floating cross and the shadows behind it, reminding ourselves of that event, that there were two other people that Jesus actually spoke to as they were all being crucified. Very powerful words were said to those criminals by Jesus Christ. So it's in honor of that event in Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, and this a beautiful part of our sanctuary that I chose today's reading. It's the 30th, it's the 29th day. So March 30th, 29th day of Lent. I'm reading from Bread and Wine, readings for Lent and Easter. This is a reflection by Leo Tolstoy called I Like the Thief. This is Tolstoy speaking. 5 years ago, I came to believe in Christ's teachings, and my life suddenly changed. I ceased to desire what I had previously desired, and began to desire what I formerly did not want. What had previously seemed to me good seemed evil, and what seemed evil seemed good. It happened to me as it happens to a man who goes out on some business and suddenly decides that the business is unnecessary and returns home. All that was on his right is now on his left, and all that was on his left is now on his right. His former wish to get as far as possible from home has changed into a wish to be as near as possible to it. The direction of my life and my desires became different, and good and evil changed places. I, like that thief on the cross, have believed Christ's teachings and been saved. This is no far-fetched comparison, but the closest expression of the condition of the spiritual despair and horror at the problem of life and death in which I have lived formerly, and of the condition of peace and happiness in which I am now. I, like the thief, knew that I had lived and was living badly. I, like the thief, knew that I was unhappy and suffering. I, like the thief to the cross, was nailed by some force to a life of suffering and evil. And so, as the meaningless sufferings of evils in life, the thief awaited the terrible darkness of death, so did I await the same thing. In all this, I was exactly like the thief, but the difference was that the thief was already dying, while I was still living. The thief might believe that his salvation lay there beyond the grave, but I could not be satisfied with that, because besides a life beyond the grave, life still waited for me here. And I did not understand that life. It seemed to me terrible. But suddenly I heard the words of Christ and understood them, and life and death ceased to seem evil, and instead of despair, I experienced happiness and the joy of life undisturbed by death. Reflect on those words, brothers and sisters. Please pray for someone that they have a meaningful Lenten journey, and I'll see you tomorrow.